The engine assembly was originally created in SolidWorks, and you can see we've got a few parts in it. Look at it when we're rotating. On this particular computer, some of the cylindrical parts turn into more geometrical shapes to help the video card handle all of the display data at the same time. This happens with complex assemblies, very complex parts, especially when you have a substandard video card in play. I'm using a machine that's a little bit older. It's probably 5 or 6 years old, and we have a lot of real view components being shown in the assembly, as well as transparent parts and wireframe parts. These all add up to a lot of strain on the video card, and so as I'm rotating it around with the space ball, SolidWorks is simplifying the display of some of the parts to help the performance work out a little bit better. So I want to go through several of the display issues that are going on with this assembly that make it look, to my eye, really good in some respects. The one thing that's going on that I actually don't like is the reflection on the floor. So we can change that by going to the Display Manager, go to View, Scene, Lights and Cameras, and then right-click on the scene. You can turn off the floor reflection, and you can also turn off the floor shadow if you'd like to do that. That will help a little bit with the performance, but with the video card that I'm using, it'll take more than just a couple of little settings. Something else that I really like to do is using F8 here to toggle on the display pane, and this helps visualize all of the settings for the various parts. For example, if I find this pulley in the feature manager, I can turn the display of that pulley off altogether, or I can change it to a wireframe state. I can even change the color or the transparency right from here. The transparency does suck up a lot of performance from the video card, so I'll just toggle that off. Notice that some of these parts have wireframe display. If I click on this, we've got a hidden line display on that part. We can change this back to a default display, whatever that happens to be. And we can notice some things about the assembly, such as we've got the wires a little bit short here. It does help to be able to see some of the items inside. And short of making it transparent, wireframe is probably a fairly economical way to go. You can also change colors for various items inside the display pane by using the third column, and we can go to Appearance here and select the appearance, or we can remove the appearance to set it back to the default. The columns of the display pane are listed here as being Hide Show, Display Style, Appearance, and Transparency. This is a tool that's extremely useful in assemblies, but it's also useful in parts. So let's open up this part and have a look at some of what we can do with the display pane in parts. In solid bodies, or if we had surface bodies, you can show and hide various bodies within this interface. In this case, we created the air column inside the manifold and then built the metal manifold around the air. So I can turn off the air and turn on the metal component. The appearance for the part can be controlled using the task pane and Appearances, Scenes, and Decals panel. You can select from a set of materials Now each of the materials has an appearance that's associated with it. That appearance may include a color, texture, and some reflectivity settings. To set the part to the selected appearance, you can drag and drop, and the drag and drop gives you a lot of options. Everything from the face to the feature to the body to the part, and also in assemblies you'll be able to set the component. In this case, I just want to select the entire part. Now I'm going to go in and fine-tune some of the aspects of this particular appearance, and we'll go to the View Appearances. The blue anodized aluminum is on here. I'm going to double-click on that, and this allows me to access various aspects of this appearance. For example, the color. You can get that on a variable scale. You can fine-tune how that is set. You can use display states, which I'll talk about here in a moment. And you can change how this is mapped. That's usually for a particular texture. If you need a finer texture or a coarser texture, or you need to take a tread plate and rotate it a few degrees, that's what the mapping panel is all about. You can also go to the advanced side of this, set up the illumination, and this will allow you to control the diffuse lighting on this particular part and also the specular lighting. Here you can also control the transparency of the part. When you use the settings through the display pane, that is just going to toggle on or off transparency. It goes to a set percentage. Using this transparency slider, you can set the transparency however you like it. Luminous Intensity is for use when you want to use something as a light source. You can turn up the luminous setting in the slider. The bug is still active where if you use this kind of slider on a double screen display, as soon as you start using it, it shoots your cursor over to the other side. So you may want to use the arrows for this. You can see that as I do this, the part is becoming brighter. And if you were to place this part now in an assembly without any lights, it would act as a light source. So we've changed the display properties of this part quite a bit. Notice also how this changes the display when I'm rotating it. It goes to a lower resolution, and this also has to do with the video card and trying to save some resources. So if we flip back to the assembly, I'll use Control-Tab to do that. My exhaust header here has updated, but I've only changed the one instance. I haven't changed the mirrored instance. There are a lot of other controls that you can use in SolidWorks for visualizing assemblies, and some of these we'll talk about are section view, which allows you to cut through the assembly and visualize the part or the assembly in this manner. You can set up the view orientation so that you can select a particular face of the orientation cube and SolidWorks will take you to that view. You can get that up more easily by using the space bar. Then you also have access to orientation dialog, which gives you previous view. And remember, that's Control-Shift-Z if you want to use a hotkey for that. You can have a new saved view or named view. You can re-establish the standard views, so you could say that this is now the front view if you wanted to go to that far. Reset standard views in case you make the standard views something that you don't care for and you want to go back to the default views. The view selector is this view cube that I've been talking about, and you've got nice metric with a drop down for some other types of views, dimetric and trimetric. Normal to or Control 8 will bring you normal to a selected face or plane or sketch, and that's a very useful tool as well. The viewports allow you to get a single viewport, a split view, up to 4 views. You can get that manually by using the splitters, which are these tiny indentations in the slider bar. So you can just pull that out, pull this one up, and you get 4 views. You can have these views linked, as these 3 views are linked, but it doesn't allow you to rotate them if you have it set up that way. Be able to rotate the view that's not linked. To set this back, you put the cursor right at the middle and double click. Goes back where it came from. I promised we'd talk a little bit about display states, and display states will be found on the configuration manager down at the bottom. These are very useful. In fact, I probably should have had some set up for this assembly. If I create another display state just by right-clicking in the display states panel and say add display state, I can, in this display state, take everything after the piston assemblies and hide it. So I'll select all of these and use the hide components. And so now when I go to my configuration manager, I can have the default display state, which shows everything, and this display state that I've just created that just shows the essential eternal parts. This is very helpful because display states are faster to work with than configurations, and they're very easy to set up, and they are less likely to have strange effects on the rest of your data. These display states can also be renamed, so I'll rename this one, calling it pistons and block. Okay, that way I've got a descriptive name that will help me get to the parts that I'm working on more quickly. Part of the visualization is going to be the items that you'll find in the heads-up view toolbar. This toolbar, and in fact this button in particular, is going to help you to see a lot of the items that you may want to turn on or off. You can control the visibility of planes very quickly. You can control axes or temporary axes. You can also control your coordinate systems, points, origins, datums, curves, parting planes. There's just a list of items that you could control through this flyout. It's a very useful tool to get used to using. You've got your edit appearance, the ability to work with your scenes, also your view settings, which allow you to control your real view graphics, turn that on or off, control shadows in shaded mode, ambient occlusion, which is really going to slow things down for you. You can turn on a perspective if you're looking to get a nice screen capture, or give it a cartoonish appearance. These are all things that you should experiment with on your own to see what sort of goals they can help you fulfill. The other settings that we've looked at are the display style, the view orientation, section view. Rotate view is one that's not commonly used, but you can turn that on and then hold down your mouse button and just revolve your assembly or your part view with the mouse. I'm accustomed to using a 3D controller, a 3D space mouse, and I recommend that you take a look at that. They aren't for everyone, but many people find that you get better control over the view from zoom and rotate to actually moving parts within an assembly or moving views on a drawing. The other tools available on this toolbar: Zoom to Fit, which is linked to the hotkey F, Zoom to Area, and Previous View, which we've seen before. Visualization is one of the things that you'll work with on a daily basis, and there's far more to show than what I can give you in a very brief demo. Figure out some of the shortcuts that you'll need to use frequently and get some ideas for how to make use of these tools to your best advantage.